Okay. And talking south of Burlington, let's talk a little bit about another project that we talked about in Washington that is getting also some discussion within the state, is the reintroduction of passenger rail and that possibility for Iowa City. And I know that you've been working on this as well, and you're really quite up to speed in rail, because years ago you used to work for a railroad, right?
Well, I wouldn't say that my former employment with a railroad has really done too much good in this instance, but it does give me a little bit of information, I suppose. We're very excited about the prospect of Amtrak service coming back to Iowa City, or I should say coming to Iowa City. It's never been here. As everyone knows, our closest stop right now is Mount Pleasant, Iowa, which is not terribly convenient. What we're trying to do is work with the state of Illinois to get service first initially brought from Chicago to the Quad Cities. Once it gets to the Quad Cities, then we'll work with the Iowa Department of Transportation to get it initially to Iowa City, and then we hope eventually to Des Moines. Perhaps even past that to Omaha, but we're going to do it in stages like that. We're very excited about the prospect. There are an awful lot of people affiliated with the university who live in or are from those western Chicago suburbs in the Chicago metro area. We really feel like it has a lot of potential, and something that in the future is going to be something that we need to consider in terms of our overall mobility package for the community.
And where would those tracks be?
Well, we're going to use the old Rock Island tracks that are presently operated by the Iowa Interstate Railroad, and the railroad is being quite cooperative with us, are very interested in working with us. A key aspect of the project will be updating some of the infrastructure for the railroad, so that benefits them, benefits us at the same time. A very exciting part is we're working with the current private owners of the old railroad depot, and they're very interested in working with us, and we think we're going to be able to work something out there to hopefully be able to use the old Rock Island Railroad depot for the Amtrak depot when we can get service back here.
So for years people have been talking about being able to take a train into Chicago. If Illinois does its part, how many years is this project out? I mean, when can we look forward to this being an actuality?
Well, I wish I could tell you that next year you'll be able to buy a ticket, but it probably won't move that quickly. Illinois has made a commitment to get it to the Quad Cities through some funding through the state of Illinois. Once that's done, I would think it would be a couple, 2-3 years probably until we can get the thing set up legislatively to create some funding for what needs to be done in Iowa, but hopefully not more than a couple, 2-3 years.
So we've been talking to our federal delegation as well as people at the state level, but what would be the role of the city in bringing Amtrak to our community? Well,
our most direct role is to provide the station facilities here. That will be our local responsibility, and that will include the area where tickets are sold and where passengers wait and where people park, all of that infrastructure. But certainly we're also going to have an important role in working with our folks at the state level to make sure we get the legislative initiatives put in place that will provide the funding to do what we need to do in the Iowa part of this.
And I understand that the funding isn't recommended in this year's the governor's budget this year, but what can we do? I mean, as a community.
Yeah, I don't think it's critical. I don't think it's critical that there's nothing in the governor's budget this year. I mean, it's going to be a tough time at the state level, just like it's a tough time for us here locally in terms of the economy. But I think the issue of passenger rail is still out there, and we need to keep it visible at the state level so that once we come out of the economic downturn, we're all set to go in terms of people being up to speed about what needs to be done and getting those legislative things in place. If it's 2 or 3 years down the road, I think the timing will work well.
Okay. Let's move a little bit farther north. The flood also provided an opportunity for us to talk to the Economic Development Administration about some projects. And we've been working on a business incubator in downtown, which is an exciting prospect. We've talked about business incubators for quite some time. So talk about where that project is and the funding and what the vision for the incubator would be in our downtown area.
The business incubator downtown is a really interesting project that we're excited about. It's something that we haven't done before. The university has a couple of business incubators that are very successful, and what we're trying to do is augment those with a place that students who were no longer affiliated with the university, they'd gone through their academic training and they have an idea and they're interested in hatching that into a company. We want to try and provide some infrastructure and some support and some mentoring for them to do that, and that's what our area downtown will do. We anticipate hopefully 4 areas downtown, be second floor spaces where we can set up the infrastructure for these businesses to be hatched.
What kind of sector are we looking at?
Well, we're told that there's a niche with students who have been in the sciences and engineering that aren't, as I mentioned, going on with any further academic training. Certainly in the web-based type businesses, I think those are the kinds of things that are, the innovative areas where there's a lot of ideas out there, and we'll hopefully be able to grow some of those businesses. And
we're applying for a federal grant to help launch this, right?
Right. Because of the flood, we were determined to be eligible for this funding, which will provide some feasibility analysis and then hopefully some of the initial startup operating funding for getting the Incubator Center going.
Jeff, thanks for being here today to talk with us about these exciting projects. We'll be back with Jeff in just a moment to talk about another community project, but we'd like to take a break now to let you know how you can help us be a stronger voice to advocate for these projects on the state and federal level. It's really important that our federal legislators as well as our state legislators hear from you to understand how important these projects are for our community.
How can you help the City of Iowa City have a stronger voice when our local delegation of elected officials advocate for Iowa City projects at the federal level? Your local delegation is comprised of U.S. representatives and senators representing the Iowa City area. Our local elected officials encourage you to contact your state and federal legislators to talk about City of Iowa City legislative priorities, such as the elevation of Dubuque Street, the replacement of Park Road Bridge, and the relocation of the North Wastewater Treatment Plant. Other legislative priorities that need your advocacy include advocacy for the Downtown Business Incubator and for Amtrak service to Iowa City. These are legislative priorities for the Iowa City City Council, and you can help show your support for these local projects by contacting your legislators. A complete and up-to-date list of contact information for U.S. representatives and senators representing the Iowa City area can be found at www.icpl.org/community/elected. Please take the time to lend your voice to Iowa City's legislative priorities. Contact your local delegation today.